The New York Knicks are NBA champs, and it's not the 70s. We throw around the term laughing stock a lot, and I get it. There's been some real embarrassing teams. I'm a Wolves fan. I know what it's like to be down in the dumps. But what I don't know is what it feels like to be down in the dumps and be the center of attention, to be winning 17 games and still be the main talking point on ESPN. For the last 25 years, they have been such a joke. The 2000s decade can really be summarized by two trades that should honestly be used as the prime example of malpractice. In 2002, they trade for Antonio McDyess, who just came off playing 10 games and averaged 11 points per game. They gave up their lottery pick and Marcus Camby for good measure for a guy who, shocker, is injured, misses his entire first season there, and then plays 14 games before he's traded again. A trade in which the Knicks have to attach a future first round pick, a really future first round pick, all the way in 2010, who ends up becoming Gordon Hayward. But that's not even their worst trade of the decade, because a couple years later, under the Isaiah Thomas regime, they trade for Eddie Curry. He was putting up some decent raw counting stats at the time, but he had shown nothing in his NBA career to prove that he was a contributing basketball player. And he was going to have to contribute to winning basketball because the Knicks gave up their next two first round picks, both in the lottery. And not only were they in the lottery, they were LaMarcus Aldridge and Joakim Noah. Now, in fairness, would the Knicks actually have made those picks? Probably not. But going into the 2010s, things are looking bright. They get Amari Stoudemire from Phoenix.
Up ahead, look out, hello!
A couple months later, they trade for Melo. No, not that Melo. The real Melo. And then after that season ends, they nab Tyson Chandler from Dallas. In a year span, they get two high-quality stars and one of the best defensive anchors in the league. Now, for as iconic as Knicks tape was, the success didn't really follow suit. That core won a total of 7 playoff games. Just to put that into perspective, here's a list of players who won at least 7 playoff games for the Knicks. Isaiah Hartenstein, Cam Payne, Precious Achiuwa, Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, RJ Barrett, and Obi Toppin. And then from 2014 to 2020, it's just an unbelievably disgusting era of basketball. They weren't doing anything. They weren't making any sort of good signings, any sort of good trades. They weren't drafting anybody good. Well, Porzingis ended up being good despite what the fans thought. But unfortunately, he tore his ACL the moment he was finally finding his footing. Just off the top of my head, how many coaches has this team had in the last 15 years? Mike D'Antoni, Mike Woodson, Jeff Hornacek, Derek Fisher, Kurt Rambis, David Fizdale, Tom Thibodeau, and now Mike Brown. And there's probably someone I'm forgetting in there. It is so insane to look at what they've been through over these last 15 years. Over these last 25 years. But you know what the funniest part of all is? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they got almost no value out of Porzingis. It doesn't matter that they drafted Frank Ntilikina. It doesn't matter that they drafted Kevin Knox. All the hate they got for apparently overpaying for Brunson. It doesn't matter. All the first round picks they gave up for McHale. It doesn't matter. Blowing that game 1 last year to the Pacers. It doesn't matter. Firing Tom Thibodeau in the offseason. How could you fire the guy who just took you to your most successful season in 25 years? It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters anymore. Nothing matters. Every second that these Knicks fans spent complaining and whining, it all led to this very moment. That's pretty amazing if you ask me. This has been such an unbelievable run for the Knicks. For a team that's gotten better every single year since 2023, and was even in the conference finals last year, you would think that we could have seen this coming. I didn't. I'm not going to pretend like I did. I didn't.
Flashback.
But my prediction is that the Wolves will win their series, the Hawks will win their series, which I predicted going into the playoffs.
End of flashback.
So to anyone who watches my videos and thinks, wow, this guy knows a lot about basketball. He also seems really handsome and funny and smart. You'd be correct. But sometimes I'm still wrong. Sometimes I'm really wrong. And as for the Spurs, man, I have a lot of thoughts. There's no excuse. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable to blow that big of a lead in every single game. This has to be the least clutch team ever. Move over, Lob City, because I think someone just dethroned you. Every single game. Every single clutch possession. Every single time it seems like there's no way the Spurs can lose this. They lost. This has to haunt them. They have to bring this with them into the offseason, just like the 2013 Spurs did with that Ray Allen 3. Like I said in my last video, nothing in this league is guaranteed. You could look at it and say, man, the Spurs are already here. They'll be here for years to come. They might not be. And the person who's most to blame, it's De'Aaron Fox. Wemby is the leader. Johnson's the coach. De'Aaron Fox should be number 1 on everybody's big board of mistakes. How do you play this bad? How do you play this bad? I think this may be the most detrimental finals performance ever. When you take into account how winnable every single game was and just how bad Fox had to play for them to barely lose, I don't think it gets worse than this. I am going to mention Stephon Castle shooting 1 for 10. That was just too bad not to talk about, although his one make was incredible. He's going to take that bullshit. Oh! That might be the biggest tip into the series if you ask me, honestly. And as for Wemby, I spoke about in that video how we need to chill with the expectations we're putting on him. That if you're expecting him to be the GOAT, if you're putting his floor as a top 5 player ever, if you're essentially assuming that he's going to be perfect, you're going to be let down. But the point of that video wasn't to be a prediction, wasn't to say Wemby definitely won't be the GOAT. It was simply me heeding a warning to people out there to calm down because there will be growing pains because we've never seen a phenomenal player not have growing pains. There was a lot of mess ups. A lot of mess ups that, if we're having the GOAT debate in 20 years, I promise those Wemby haters are going to feed off of. And after claiming that everybody knows we're going to make the 3-1 comeback and saying I'm in their head, you shoot 7 for 25 in a very winnable Game 5. This was rough. It was rough. And if there's one thing I can praise Wemby on, it's his defense. But if there's a second thing I can praise Wemby on, it's his mentality. Because I know he's not going to live this one down, and I know he's going to be very, very hard on himself. And I hope he learns from it. Because this performance, it just can't happen. If you want to be known as the best in the league, if you want to have that sort of title, which it seems like he does, you got to act that way. But you know who's been amazing these playoffs? You know who doesn't deserve any share of the blame? Dylan Harper. I love Dylan Harper. Okay, straight up, I think I need to start a Dylan Harper fan club. He is quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the league. He has been such a big contributor. He has been their second best player. Think about that. He's the second best player on a finals team. He averaged the most points per game by a rookie in a finals since Magic Johnson. Which of course got me thinking, where does this rank in terms of rookie playoff runs? If we just limit it to teams that made the finals, sorry Jason Tatum, you're out. Sorry Kareem, thankfully you're out because this wouldn't really be a fair discussion if you weren't. Magic Johnson is of course so high on that list. To win finals MVP, whether or not he really deserved it, to win game 6 with the best player on your team out with injury, to have arguably the greatest playoff game in NBA history as a rookie. Nothing has ever and will ever top that. Other names that I thought were worth mentioning, Elgin Baylor led his team to the finals as a rookie and a really bad team at that. That Lakers team was 33 and 39, but he still dragged them to the finals. And then you had 2 years prior where Bill Russell led his team to a championship as a rookie. But you know what's funny? According to the voters, he wasn't even the best rookie on his own team. It was actually Tom Heinsohn who won Rookie of the Year and was an All-Star. So that is just such a ridiculous rookie duo. And then you have a very random one, but definitely worth noting, where 1976, Alvin Adams is legitimately the best player on a Suns team that almost wins a championship. He's really good. He was a very unique mold of player, especially for that time, that we see a lot more of now. And I would say that does it for the major examples. If we get into lower tier players, you have Tyler Hero, like I mentioned before. Notably in 03, who, although struggled with his efficiency, for a team that was severely lacking depth, he was pretty vital. You had Sam Cassell for the 94 Rockets, who, although the numbers aren't eye-popping, hit some really big shots. And finally, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite teams ever, the 93 Suns, who relied heavily on their rookies. Richard Dumas and Oliver Miller, who, if you don't know those names, I don't blame you, but they were actually really big contributors for those Suns teams. But this is all to say that Dylan Harper is legit. He is the future. If he's not Wemby's running mate for the next 10 years, then something's gone wrong. Then the Spurs have pulled a 2012 OKC and lost their James Harden. The kid's unbelievable. And yes, I can call him kid because he's younger than me. I'd rather not think about it. Karl Anthony Towns is an NBA champion. Who would have seen that coming?